Hello, LNUG.
Hello.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Very nice to see you. Nesquirk. So I've got a talk for you. It's pretty demo heavy. I'm going to do some live coding. You are going to be my linter. So if I make mistakes, then tell me because you know, it doesn't work if it goes wrong. So here we go. I put some emojis in. Okay, great. What are you even talking about? I'm talking about today your HTTP API and how it makes for sad face UI. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Meteor and what it does with pub subs, and how I quite like the way that works, and how I wish it worked in other applications that I have. And we're going to talk about your legacy node HTTP JSON API, and we're going to talk about how you can turn that legacy API into a megacy API without having to rewrite it all, which would be just totally rad. So that's that slide. Enough slides. Enough slides already. Let's demo. Does it demo? Yes. Yes, it does. So here we go. We're going to do some demoing of something that I built. If I can just figure out. OK, that's all running. That's great. Is there more? No? Nope. Can I see this one too, please? Yay, great. So I need a that one. Yeah, cool. And here we go. So I'm sorry. I have to apologize, but it's a to-do list. It's a to-do list. We know to-do list, though. We're all good with that. And to-do list you can check off and be like, yeah, I've done that one. You can be like, add another to-do. What do I need to do?
Attend Elder.
That was boring. Anything interesting? What?
Dance with pizza.
Don't repeat yourself.
No, dance with pizza.
Dance with... How did I...
Why would
Sorry.
you do that?
It's the hat. I don't know. Dance with pizza. That's cool. Dance with pizza. I don't know why I'm like, this might be a really long talk if we do it. So we got this. We got this app. You can add to-dos. You can delete the boring ones. And you can edit things like dance with lots of pizza. That's kind of cool. Yeah, to-do lists. We know to-do lists. We're good at that. So let me show you the code, because you're all kind of nodey people, or JavaScripty people at least. Yeah, this is the code. So it's basically a React project, and I don't know why I'm showing you this one first. That's not what I wanted to show you. But you know, on the server, this is the node bit. It's a Hapi. How many of you use a Hapi? Is it relatively well known? Okay, there's some. About 50% if you round it up. So it's all relevant. That's good. So Mongo. How many people use Mongo? All right, 100% if you round it up. And so this is a really short file with some code in it, but it's basically the server-side component of what you just saw. And it's a Hapi server, which is kind of a little bit like Express, but different. And yeah, you define some routes. So we've got some routes here. We've got like a get route for getting all of the to-dos in our database. We've got a get route for getting single to-do for when we're editing them. We want to get that. We've got a route for like adding a new one to the database, which is all good. This is all. Tell me if any of this is like really complex or like I don't get it. But this should hopefully be fairly self-explanatory. Handlers. Request comes in, you do something with the data that comes in. What we're doing basically is just inserting it into the database here. And so we've got other routes. Editing one is patch, and we specify the ID of the to-do that we want to edit in the URL. And then we can remove them as well using a delete. So yeah, this is your legacy API, basically. You've got tests. This doesn't have tests, but you would have like many more HTTP endpoints that your existing app might be using. And it's just there. It's chugging away. It does a good job. It's there. Awesome. So that's kind of cool. The UI is your basic Reacty thing. I don't know if any of you do this, but like we've got so the to-do list. So this is the component. This is the homepage basically, and it takes props, which are like the to-dos that we want it to render, and we've got like some functions for like when we click the checkbox for doing like I've done a to-do or not. And so these are callbacks and on remove, and we've got like a loading callback as well. So this is kind of fun. And this just basically renders out the to-do list. And then, so I split out like the, I don't know if anyone else does this, but I split out the kind of fetching the to-dos from the API and mutating them, like as in like specifying that they're done or they're removed, or I want to remove it into a separate kind of wrapper component, which just talks to this one up here. So that's kind of fun. Well, what it does is when the component mounts, it gets all of the to-dos. So when the component becomes on the page, it uses the fetch API to go and call our server-side methods and render the to-dos. So that's kind of fun. And then when we get like the on-done callbacks, it also uses the fetch API to call our server-side routes for mutating the to-dos. And the same for remove. And there's not a lot more to it. So that's kind of fun. So this is cool. And this wrong window. Can we go to, here we go. So we got this one. I need here we go. So this is fun until we realize that like the experience that we have when there's other people using this. So like it's fun when there's only one person with a to-do list, but like as a shared to-do list, it's not much fun because if I add like, go to the pub here, I see that, but the other person didn't see that because it's not reactive. It just, the problem is that when this page is rendered, that's when the data's been fetched and rendered on the screen. So if I refresh the page, then I can see that. But like if I then decide that I've gone to the pub, I can know that I've done that. But until the other guy refreshes the page, they don't know that I've gone, or that gone to the pub has been done. So we can argue about the merits of having a shared to-do list, but this is the kind of issue that you have with your UI when you have just a kind of JSON API. And you might be like, this is fairly kind of naive approach to it. It's just calling a like HTTP API. When a component mounts, you might be using something a bit more fancy to do that, like Redux or RxJS or whatever. But that's what's happening here. And it's kind of annoying. So back to the slides, because I've lost where I was. So what did we see? Let's review. So we've got a happy JSON backend, and it stores stuff in a Mongo. Fun times. We've got a Reacty front end, which is built in React, and it kind of works, but it's not great when other people are using it because I don't get to see the changes. So what we actually are seeing a lot of the time is stale datas, which is not great. So then the other thing I was going to talk about today was Meteor, and what Meteor is a framework for Node.js, and it uses MongoDB, and it it allows you to pick your front end, so you can choose like Angular or Blaze, which is handlebars basically. But their main kind of focus is React, so whatever. And then it also uses WebSockets, which is kind of fun. It uses WebSockets to do stuff like read, like whenever you want to like fetch some data, you would like subscribe to a publication that had been set up on the server, and then you get data back, but you also get like changes back. And what's kind of interesting with Meteor and PubSub is that it's not kind of, I don't know how many different PubSubs anyone's used, but like whenever I seem to see it, you get kind of messages, and it's up to you to decide what to do with that message. And it's like, this has been updated, this thing has been updated. And what Meteor does is it kind of takes that message and it essentially updates its local store of data. So if you've subscribed to a bunch of data on the server, like a query on a Mongo database, say I want all of the to-dos, then what happens in Meteor world is that there's also like a store on your client side, which is updated with the to-dos when you subscribe to that publication. So that's the kind of cool thing about it. You'll see a bit more later, but the idea is that the data moves from the server to the client, and then you just query Mongo on the client as if it was a Mongo on the server, which is kind of cool. It's called MiniMongo, and it's basically a small Mongo. Cool. And then so it's got kind of remote procedure call for when you want to do stuff like mutating your data. So you generally call a method, Meteor calls them Meteor methods, over the WebSocket to say, I want to update this thing, change something or remove it or whatever. So these are the two cool things that it has that makes Meteor so rad and awesome. Cool. So I've been talking again for too many minutes. Let's fit. So this is Hey Dougie, and he is a dog. And if you have children, you might know that. And this is my life now, so I just you should totally check out Hey Dougie. He's very cool. What am I going to do now? Right. So now it's time for demos again. Hurry, let's build a Meteor. Oh, wait, don't give it away. So what I'm going to do now to show you how awesome it is, I'm going to take what we've got already and build a Meteor version of it. So what I will do is I will just move into the directory of the Meteor stuff. So I've done some of this, so it's not just me coding like the whole thing. So yeah, to do Meteor. So in Meteor, we'll close that one up. So if we were to do this in Meteor, just to show you how it might work, we would go and add this. So like I said, Meteor has this PubSub kind of thing, and you would go in and add a publication for the to-dos, and you would add it in this publications file. And we need some things here. We need Meteor, first of all. And we need, what else do we need? So we need our to-dos. And so to-dos are just a Meteor, a Mongo collection. And it looks like this. I wouldn't worry too much about the allow stuff, but it's just a collection. We don't access them in the same way as we were before, like db.todos.find. It's just slightly different in Meteor. Yes, you're right. Yeah, great, cool. And then, so then we can set up these publications by using the Meteor.publish command, and we're going to say like, okay, when I'm on the home page, I want to subscribe to all of the to-dos. and I'm going to call this publication to-dos, and then I'm going to basically get all of the to-dos.find. So this is similar syntax to what you'd expect if you were in Mongoland, and you find all of them. We only want to get some of the fields for this, so like we'll get the ID field. So this is slightly different to the way you'd specify in Mongo, but we just get the ID, title, and the created at, and the done flag. These are some fields that they have, and then we'll sort them by created that. So then if we look at what we were doing in the server side for getting all the to-dos previously in the kind of Hapi version, it's very similar. We're finding all of them, and we're getting those fields, and we're sorting them. But now we're in Meteor land. So I've created this publication in Meteor. I'm going to create another one for subscribing to a particular to-do. And what are we going to do? So to-do ID. And then actually, you know what? We can just copy this and change it, because that might actually be. Come on. To-dos. Okay, so you have to return a cursor from a Meteor publication. You never really return one thing. You return because it gets put into the collection on the client side. You can find one from that collection, but anyway. Wouldn't worry too much about that. And then we don't need to object ID, because all Meteor IDs, all IDs in Meteor Mongo collections are strings, so it's okay. And that's that. That's our publication. So we can subscribe to to-dos on the homepage. We can subscribe to a particular to-do on the edit page. So yeah, fun times. Then, like I said, Meteor has this concept of RPC and Meteor methods, I should say, really. I've set up a couple of existing ones. And again, if we look back at our Hapi server, we've got adding is basically this. And if we look at the methods already here, this is very similar. That's not helpful if I do that, is it? So split, right. Cool. These are very similar things. They're the same things. These are very similar. You get it. So there's to-dos.add, there's a to-dos.update, which is edit. Again, very similar. We didn't find. So the interesting thing here is that in the Hapi version, we find one after it's been updated and return it. But we don't need to do that for Meteor, and because we're subscribed to this set of to-dos, if I change one on the server, then Meteor will automatically send the updated to-do back down to the client if I'm interested in it. And that's rad. So I'm just going to add, what we're missing here is just to-dos dot remove. Thanks. Cool. And then we can remove them. How do we do that? Payload again. And then presumably I can just copy this again and change it. So it's to-dos dot remove ID is payload dot. Yeah, cool. Nice. That's it. And then, so once we've got the server side set up, then we can look at the client side. What we can do is grab hold of our, oh man. Okay, so I'm going to copy my front end, my homepage. I've already copied over the other pages. So so that in here, really big. They're in here, and I've already copied them over and altered them already. I'm just going to do the homepage quickly to show you how that might work. Solution, fetch, and what is the URL? So UI, what's this? To-do list. UI. Cool. So I have just copied that over. That's fun. So we've got that here, and we need a couple of things now. We need Meteor again. Import Meteor. We need Meteor because we're going to be calling those methods, and the way you do it is the methods that we just defined on the server, and the way you do it is through the the Meteor object. What else do we need? So we want import create container. Where are we? From from React Meteor data. And so yeah, with the container, like instead of like publishing to-dos from our REST endpoint, we are going to subscribe to our to-dos publication, and create container is going to allow us to do that. But you'll see that in just a second. So we also want the to-dos. So we're in the client side now, but we're importing the Meteor's Mongo collection in our client-side code, which is kind of fun. And we are that's not right. That's kind of fun. So once we've got those things, we can do some interesting stuff. So we're going to use create container. So create container takes a function that we use to return the data for our to-do list container. So rather than to-do list container fetching its own to-dos and specifying where, or holding state of when it's loading or not, that's going to be the job of the container here and this function here. This function gets passed the props that were passed to it, and in there we can subscribe to we can subscribe to our to-do list. Da-da-da. And the idea is we return the to-dos from our Mongo collection, from our to-do collection. So we just do to-dos.find, and then we're going to sort them by created at. So we're using the same query that we used on the server, which is kind of cool. And then we need to fetch these. So to-dos.find in Meteorland will return us like a cursor, and fetch will get all of the documents in that cursor and give us back an array. So that's just a quirk of Meteor. And we can maintain this kind of loading state because our subscriptions, the handle that I just got here, has a property called ready, which I can query to see if the subscription has finished its initial load of the data that I've asked for. And that's going to not give me the right thing unless I negate it. So yeah, so this is fun. But yeah, so what happens is this container is, it will render this to-do list, a container will render a container which renders the to-do list. But what happens is when this container that we've created using create container mounts, it will call our get data function. And our get data function is like, I want to subscribe to these to-dos. At some point, the to-dos will come down from the server and get put in the to-dos collection for us. And initially, this will just be, this will just be like an empty array. But when they do finally come down, this function will be called again when the collection's ready, when data changes in the collections. And the properties of this object that I return here are passed as props to the to-do list container. It means that we no longer need our state here, because we are not managing that. This container is not managing that at all. So I can just get that from props now, which is cool. And then I can change page. And then I don't need this whole chunk here, which is like fetching the to-dos in the first place, because that's all being handled by the subscription. We are on done. Okay, so this is the interesting bit. So now these two things we're not using this because we're in Meteor. So to call our Meteor function, our Meteor method for toggling the done state, we can just do meteor.call. And we called it, let's have a look, what did we call it? So it's to-dos.update. So we can just call this method. Let me just double check. Choose the update. Yeah, and we give it the to-do that we want to update and the state, the done flag for what it's done. And then it might error, but we don't care about that really. I can't not do this. So there we go. Lid to get out of the way. To-dos.remove. And the same thing goes here. This is how we call Meteor methods. Just meteor.call. So it's kind of fun. And then something that I missed out is that if you look at this to-do list, after we removed or after we changed something, we called this fetch to-dos function, which would go and fetch them all because we've changed something, so I need to get a new, fresh, kind of updated version of it. Yeah, so we do that there, but we also do it on remove, and we could also like update our local kind of view of the world, and if we wanted, or go and fetch a new set of everything. But you don't have to do that here because we are calling Meteor. We're updating the set, one of the documents in the set of documents that we're interested in. So Meteor will then automatically propagate that change back down to us, and then the get data function will be called, and then new props will be sent back down. So there's less coding to do, and things happen a bit more automatically, which is good fun. Wow. Okay. Cool. I think I've done all of this now. That's great. So I did a lot of coding. That took much longer than I thought it would. But now I can hopefully meteor this, and if I'm really lucky, it might work. But you all saw no errors, right? So. Okay, right, okay, it's apparently running. Okay, yeah, hooray! Oh my god, it works. So now we've got these two things, and now hopefully I should just be able to pow, 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 pow. This is great. Edit these, that changes, add one, la la, delete it over here, okay, goodbye, it's gone, okay, goodbye. Right, yeah, cool, ha, wee. So that's that. Awesome, right? Well, you're wrong. It's not awesome. Nobody, who gets to, okay, how many of you work on greenfield projects all day, every day? Not many. Okay, not everyone works on greenfield projects, so they can't just choose Meteor and just create a new application and start from scratch. They also don't have the privilege to, if they've got a big REST API that is already there, they don't necessarily have the time or budget or whatever to go and just rewrite it. And that is kind of the issue and kind of what I want to address. I've got this problem in that I've got a big JSON API that is, it works well, it's nice, it's happy, it's, I'm okay with that. But the front end is just a bit not very nice. So what I would quite like to do is have the magic of what just happened there happen for me in my old app, not having to rewrite it. So there we go, Nesquirk. Nesquirk is Nes, and Nes is WebSockets for Hapi, which is just rad. It has built-in, it has some pub/sub stuff, which is really cool, and it's slightly different to Meteor. So like I said, the pub/sub in Nes is basically it works on the server, and then you basically, rather than Nes remembering what document set you are currently subscribed to, it gets you to manage what has changed in that particular set potentially. So for instance, if you were to update a document, you then all you need to do is just tell all connected clients that are subscribed to that to that particular document, that endpoint, that document has been updated. So it's not quite so automatic, but it's good enough. It's good enough for me because I don't have to re-implement it. It just works. And what's really awesome is that over your WebSockets is you can call your existing endpoints. So all of your endpoints that are being used by your legacy app that have tests and are working great can still work, but they're just called over WebSockets. And you can also fall back to just HTTP if your app works in some legacy environment for some of your clients, but others they can. So that's kind of cool. Nes, yes. So Nes and Quirk, and I don't know Quirk. So Mingo is the MiniMongo. So I talked about MiniMongo, and I looked at the Meteor MiniMongo, and it was really difficult to kind of extract it from the Meteor project. And I also looked at MiniMongo library on NPM, and it was just not great. It had a lot of stuff that I didn't want in it. But then I found this awesome one. If you like Flash Gordon, you will like this. The Mingo. It's called Mingo, and it's basically Mongo or the Mongo query, but implemented in JavaScript. So the way in which we queried the database for stuff in Meteor on the client, we can do something similar in Nesquirk, which is awesome. Does it demo? Okay. Okay. Yes, it does. What I'm going to do now is going to take our old app. And we're going to convert it into a new Nesquirk app without having to rewrite the backend, only minor changes, and hopefully that'll be awesome and it will work in a very similar way. So what do we need to do? Let's go do some more coding. Cool. Let's quit that. To do Nesquirk. And so we can just forget about all of this. And we're now in here, which is basically what was in this solutions to do fetch. But in some instances I've already done and we're just going to do what we did before and Nesquirk up the homepage. Let's do it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new, to-do list. I'm going to grab the contents of the existing one. I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to create a new server.js file. And I'm going to grab the contents of the existing one. I'm going to put it in there. And then let's move that out of the way. What do I need to do here? So we just need to require Nesquirk. Quill. And then from there, we just need to, in Hapi, we just need to register the plugin. And then what we're going to do is a similar thing to the thing we did in Meteor. We're going to set up our publications, our subscriptions that people can subscribe to. And you do that via server.enqueue. Enqueue is shorter to type than Nesquirk. Subscription, and so we're going to do something similar that we did before. We need a few arguments in here, and this is we're going to call this. So what you have to do with Nes is you have to specify a path as if it were like a path in your REST API, like a URL path, rather than just having words that you can subscribe to. So to-dos, and what do we get? This is slightly different, but we can use it in a very similar way. What happens here is just like with Meteor, when we had our server publication here. So this function is called when people subscribe to this. Not that, sorry. So this function is called when people subscribe to the to-dos. We're going to do basically the same thing. But in asynchronous the JavaScript world. To-dos, we have to-dos. Reply, that's great. So we've got one subscription, and we can do to-dos that, and then so for subscribing to a single to-do. Great. And then, so like I said, with the difference between Meteor and Nes is that you manage your subscriptions manually. So once you've subscribed to something, your code has to then inform all of the connected WebSockets when things change. So for instance, like if I've added a new to-do to the collection, I just need to do server.enqueue.add. And that we need to tell it what subscription we're talking about and the thing that has been updated. Same thing for editing. So we call update. So we need to, So we've got two subscriptions that we need to inform about this. We need to inform all the to-do subscription, but we also need to inform the to-do for the single to-do subscription as well. So we do that by doing something like this, and then a similar thing for removing. Remove. So we say, all to-dos, this to-do has been removed. All for this particular to-do. Oh, wait a minute. What's going on here? For remove, you only have to specify the ID of the to-do that was actually removed. So that's it for the server side. So we haven't really changed the existing endpoints. We've just added a couple of chunks of code to manage our subscriptions. So that's kind of fun. And then, so to-do list, again, same sort of thing. Right. So we're back on the client. We're back on the home page. We get a similar create container. Create container, and we get a with client. So with client allows us to access the function, the client, the instance of. So like when we were calling the Meteor methods, we were using meteor.call. In Nesquirk world, we're going to just use the client, which is the WebSocket client, to call our existing endpoints. And with client, it's just a helper that allows us to access the client that is currently connected, that is in the world. Network. So that's that. So then we go all the way down to the end again, and we do something very similar. Create container. Pow. We've got a similar function that we use, function, and then that gets given our props. We get a handle as well. And instead of using Meteor, we use this sort of subscribe. But the other thing we need now is we're going to subscribe to the to-dos subscription, but we're also going to pass it our to-dos collection. So this is different to what Meteor does, but where is it? So that is in domain /to-dos. I think I put it there. To-dos with a capital. Rad. Thank you. And then again, we return our to-dos. Find. Okay, and so this is slightly the same sort as you would do it in regular Mongo land created at. And then, okay, so Meteor had fetch, Mingo has all. That's kind of fun. And again, so we can do loading, not handle.ready, which is kind of cool. There we go. And then basically the same thing again. We don't need a state because that's being given to us through the props. I will also change this. And then again, we don't need the fetch to-dos. And when we're done, we are not going to do this, and we're not going to do this either. But now we can call this .client. What do we call? What do we call? Okay, client.request. And we will request to do slash, and then the to do ID. And then we need to say, well, we need to say these things. So here, our client is calling our existing endpoints, which is cool. Headers, got some headers. Should have checked that this works without these because this takes ages to type. Cool. Application. Great. So that's that. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. Delete. This is patch. And then we've got a payload. The errors are getting more frequent. Sorry. Done. Payload's done. That's great. And then we just have a maybe it didn't work problem. OK, cool. So then this is similar for remove. No, not there. There. To-do/to-do ID, and we method delete. And we don't have a payload because there's nothing to pay. And nice. So that's cool. That we're calling existing endpoints. Fun times. And that's it. I think. I hope. And npm run watch. Start it up. Oh no. So this code is the exact code that I just wrote. Pretend. But then we should just be able to refresh this guy. We've got back because we are using our Mongo from before, we've got back the old to-do list. But hopefully, if with any luck, this will work in exactly the same way as it did before. And that's that. How awesome. So that's cool. How does it work? The server is really thin, wrap it over Nes. When we did the subscription, all it does, if you've ever used Nes before, is just call Nes's subscription function with an on-subscribe option, which is kind of rad. So when we're managing our publication, when we call add, update, or remove, we're just calling server.publish with path, and we're like expanding our call to this function with a message with which has a kind of hang on a ready, added, updated, or remove property, and some data, so the things that had actually changed. On the client, the difference that you saw when we're subscribing was that when we subscribed, we actually gave it the collection that we were that we wanted to it to put the things from this subscription in. So that's cool. So when we subscribe, we set up a kind of mapping between the path or the subscription name and the collection where we want the things to go. So when we get messages for that particular subscription, we know that we need, for this collection, we need to either add, remove, or update it. And then collections are just event emitters. Specifically, they have a change event, which is just emitted whenever things change. And they're basically just a proxy to Mingo, which is kind of rad. And then so create container, as you saw, like with Meteor, it calls get data on mount. It sets state for whatever get data returns. And then when the state changes, the component that it's wrapping gets updated with the state. And so what's interesting, so the kind of key part about this is when we call get data, it listens to the collections that we use. So when get data is called, we do some subscribing. We use this.subscribe to subscribe. And when we did so, we gave it the collection, so we know which collections are being used by our component, and we can subscribe to the changes. And then so when changes happen, we can call get data again, and then we can re-render. And that's it, yeah! Significantly longer than I'd hoped for. But yes, that's it. Thanks. You've been great.